The Valley is agriculture. The Valley is manufacturing. The Valley is technology. The Valley is community. You're watching the Valley Podcast presented by the Tuscarawas County Economic Development Corporation.
Welcome to the Valley Podcast. I'm JC Shively. We have two excellent guests here today, Commissioner Chris Abbuhl and Ryan Grewell. How do you pronounce your name? Grewell?
Grewell. We're not fancy enough for that extra syllable. We're just Grewell.
This is going to be a really exciting episode. We're going to give you guys some updates on our ConnecTusc campaign. And the first segment is introductions. Commissioner Abbuhl has been on the show before, really needs no introduction. So we'll just dive right into the questions with Commissioner. Commissioner, what's driven you to be a champion of internet accessibility in Tuscarawas County?
Well, good morning, JC and Ryan. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. What has really driven me is the absolute need for broadband access, not only through around Tuscarawas County, but through the state and nationally. I belong to a national organization called National Association of Counties. This isn't something that is unique to our county, but I believe that broadband access is the single most transformational project that we could possibly do right now. Because our kids are so reliant on it, our children have grown up with it. You know, I was sitting last night thinking of things that it affects, and I'm talking about education and agriculture and business development and entrepreneurs. And matter of fact, I had to ask Alexa, how do you spell entrepreneurs? I didn't have that when I was growing up. Of course, She spelled it to me. My grandkids know how to operate all these different things. And the technology is so advanced and is so beneficial, particularly for education. As we talked before, COVID-19 really brought this to our attention when we had kids that was going to hotspots throughout the county to be able to do their homework. We provided Chromebooks to every child in the state, but not every child has access to broadband that is reliable and affordable, that they could do their homework from home. So I believe that, again, this is a transformational project that really needs to be done, and we need to get it right. The technology is dependent on everyday tasks. So it's not something that's unique to one niche of our community. It is something that is very important to everyday tasks that we do each and every day. And our future depends on it. Our educational system particularly depends on it. But like I said, all the different things that I had mentioned, and you all know this, but we're doing this podcast because we want to educate people on the importance of broadband connectivity.
Yeah, so Commissioner, I think another thing that can be said here in terms of broadband and the importance of it is the business development impact. Mm-hmm. And, just how many people are work from home since the pandemic have transitioned to work from home. And then you also have, like your daily services are also dependent upon your medical appointments, so much of it is, and we've heard the question, well, what's the Economic Development Corporation in broadband for, right? Well, the answer there is pretty simple. I think it's business development, right? It's giving our citizens the opportunity to participate in a modern economy, right?
Absolutely. And again, it touches every aspect of our life. And you look at agriculture, if you've ever been to a presentation that Ohio State University does, they have machinery that's running out on the fields that sends back data to their computers that tell them how much fertilizer to put on the ground, what the quadrants are for driving their tractors around, how much feed some cattle should be eating for the production that they do in a milk production. The applications are endless, and it's not something that's going to go backwards. Like I said, I've said this so many times before, our kids are not going to go back to pen and paper. They're advancing through technology, and we've got AI coming now, and we got to catch up with just our broadband itself. And you've heard me say this before, it is no longer a luxury, it is a necessity. So it's something that we need for every aspect of business development, entrepreneurship, agriculture, healthcare, all these different applications. So it's no different to me than a regular utility that needs to be part of our infrastructure.
All right, so we're going to move on and we're going to get to know Ryan a little better. I'm just going to throw all these questions into one little mix here for you, Ryan. All right, so we want to know where you're from, where did you go to school, where you work and how long you've been there.
I'm from Yerkesville, Ohio originally. Grew up in Yerkesville, just like southern Tuscarawas County. You know, smaller town. I went to Claymont High School, and Claymont is a really good school district in southern Tuscarawas County. We had a lot of like farming related, kids that grew up on farms. We had people that grew up in town, like I did. It's a very good community, but it spans a lot of area. It's pretty decently sized district that goes into southern Tuscarawas County at a pretty sizable rate. Where I work is Smartway Communications. So 10 years ago, I started Smartway Communications in my basement, and I had somebody that needed internet and asked me if I could get them internet, and I jokingly said yes. And before I knew it, I was connecting people in various places, and it was like a hobby in the beginning, and then just slowly from there, it turned into a business, and that was our mission. We started to take the thing to more and more locations, and here we are 10 years later in 15 counties.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So, follow-up question here: what's driven you? Maybe this is a given, but what's driven you to really be a champion of rural internet accessibility specifically?
Yeah, so I will give you a 2-second story that made it go from a hobby to being something that I'm extremely passionate about. Everybody's kind of joined on this post COVID. Everybody's jumped on the we need broadband everywhere, but I've been screaming this for about 9.5 years now. And what it was is there's a small town called Pioli. It's like southern point of Tuscarawas County, and we were installing internet off of our tower that's in Jeanette and Hutton, down off of State Route 258, I believe, down there. And we're installing internet, and this woman come out with a plate of cookies, and she like cried on my shoulder. And I'm thinking, lady, it's just Netflix. There's no way that it's that important. And she says, we changed her life. And I asked her to explain a little bit. She said that the school had given them Chromebooks for the students, and they had no internet, so they were going to the McDonald's in Newcomerstown every single day for a couple hours to do homework. And she said, it was a half-hour drive for her, and then they'd go do homework, and then half-hour drive home. So sometimes it was 4 hours out of their night. And that really was an impact when we took real reliable broadband and delivered it to her home. From that moment forward, I realized the impact of what we were doing and decided that this is what we were going to do. And so we've been running as far and as fast as we possibly can to expand broadband.
So I'll just say we've heard that story many times over again too. So that one specific story that you just told, we've heard that from many of folks. So just an incredible community impact. So,
and JC, if I can interject, and that's what's so important about this, because just like Ryan had talked about, that he did this in his basement. Now, if he has the knowledge, if he had been sitting outside the city limits that didn't have access, he would not have been able to do what he did without at least going into town to be able to connect. So a lot of great businesses that have been developed started out of the garage or the basement that turned into huge businesses and filled a need. And that's exactly what Ryan did by people approaching him out of his basement. And you can see the success that grew from that. And that's from having accessibility.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great point, Commissioner. Great point. All right, so we're going to move to our second segment, and I'm going to go through the history of our ConnecTusc campaign a little here. So the genesis of this, the county receives ARPA funds, and of those ARPA funds sets aside $1 million for broadband, and essentially gives it to our organization, the TCEDC, to leverage for a future grant, right? We also participated in a program, community accelerator program put on by Broadband Ohio. Commissioner joined us, and this helped us create a countywide plan to expand broadband internet. We eventually did take that $1 million of ARPA funds and applied for a power grant that is through the Appalachian Regional Commission, the ARC. And as part of that, we put out a request for proposals. And Smartway won that award with a match of $1 million of their own, which gave us a over $3 million to expand internet accessibility in Tuscarawas County. Commissioner, you want to briefly explain what ARPA is and what the thought process was for the commissioners to take this $1 million and set it aside for internet access? I know other counties also received ARPA funds. Mm-hmm. They weren't as forward thinking as Tuscarawas County. So what was the thought process behind that?
Well, appreciate that. The American Rescue Plan Act for 2021 was funding that came from the federal government for us to be able to do projects to empower our communities to get back into business after COVID. And one of the things that, again, for all the reasons that I described earlier on the importance of broadband, we decided to put $1 million of that towards your organization, which the TCEDC with Marla, yourself, and John, because you have the wherewithal to be able to follow through with some of the processes that need to be done. And we have a trust level there that knew that you would be able to advance this. And so we put the $1 million up. And as you said, you've turned that into $3 million with SmartWay being contributing to that and with another grant that you received. And for the same reasons that I would have loved to put a lot more money into it. But as you know, when we receive funding, a lot of times there's a lot of needs in the community. And so we passed that out through various ways and to be able to help our community to recover from what had happened with COVID. So we were able to, I think it's important that we can do the best that we can to deliver services that are needed within our community. And again, I don't want to be just continue to repeat things, but this is a transformational project. And I'm right there with Ryan. I've been talking about this for years. I've gone to all the seminars, the webinars, these sessions, been part of panels. I'm on Broadband Task Force with the State Association. I just think it is so important that we move this forward, and we can't continue to allow it to not be completed like it was the first time around. We had a lot of federal dollars, a lot of state dollars, but I still think those dollars are put in so many different silos, and it's very difficult to be able to get access to them or to jump into all the different hoops that you have to. And as you know, we were part of a discussion with some folks from the state. They're asking, what do we need to do to be able to help our communities? One of the main topics was broadband, housing, workforce development. But again, all those things tie into connectivity. So that's why I think it's important. And I really pushed the issue of the other commissioners supporting this, and they did. And so I'm glad we did. I would love to put more into it, but with the resources we just didn't have. But it's a move forward. So we were going in a positive direction. So it was an easy. That was my minimal ask, was $1 million that we could forward this to your organization to try to move connectivity forward.
Yeah, and as a part of this process, we signed up for the Broadband Ohio Community Accelerator Program, and I can't emphasize enough. We're an economic development organization. Our specialty isn't broadband internet or internet accessibility, and so having the opportunity to be a part of their pilot community accelerator program gave us a lot of education and information that was extremely valuable in this process in terms of trying to figure out how we can make the most impact with these dollars. And so that's kind of the next question that I've lined up here. How did you hear about the Community Accelerator Program? And I think now they are in their second or third round, correct?
That's correct. And actually, I'm going to be one of the panelists on their next upcoming accelerator program because we were part of the first one and because of the success that we've had since then. So they want to know lessons learned, what mistakes made, how do we move forward? And so to encourage other counties to do some of the similar things that we have done to be able to advance connectivity. But I learned about it through our County Commissioners Association of Ohio, which I serve as the president for 2024. And we also, like I said, we have a broadband task force. And this is one of the things that we are focusing on is trying to get all of our state covered for broadband accessibility. But I've also participated in the national program, and this is not unique to Ohio, and it's not unique to Tuscarawas County. But when we had the meeting the other day, a couple of weeks ago, when we were talking with the people from the state, we really emphasized the importance of communication between the local, the state, and the federal. Because when those dollars come down and it's divided up into these different silos, it's very difficult to be able to really move in a forward direction that you need to, because we need somebody here in the county, which right now is what we're leaning on is our Tuscarawas County Economic Development Corp, and which is you, John, and Marla. And you have done a fantastic job in working with the resources that we've had available. But of course, there's not enough of those funds to be able to complete the projects that need to be done. But that's how I found out about it, through our association, and then Broadband Ohio that was created through the governor's office. And then, as you said, we were part of the pilot program, and we've learned a lot of good things from that, and we're trying to share that with others. So as a president of the state association, I want to see Tuscarawas County thrive, but I also want to see the state of Ohio thrive. And as a nation, we need to take this very seriously and make sure that we have something in place, the infrastructure necessary, the utilities necessary for our children to be successful in the future.
It is truly the new electricity, right? You have to have it to really participate in the world today. So real briefly and quickly, just some things that were born out of the Broadband Ohio Community Accelerator Program was our ConnecTusc campaign. And Commissioner, you were a part of the very beginning of this. The Valley podcast was actually born. The first episode of this podcast was really encouraging people to participate in the ConnecTusc campaign. Mm-hmm. So we did a number of things in cooperation with Ohio State mm-hmm. and other agencies. And, so we created flyers. We had a internet survey that people could take. We did the Valley podcast. We took mm-hmm. clips of that podcast and put that on social media. And we also created a follow-up survey on our website. And so let's go ahead and move into the third segment. Ryan, this is really your chance to shine, and we're going to talk about the community impact of this program. Before we get into the questions, a little background on the ARC Power Grant. So currently there's 6 towers around the county that are being updated, 2 new construction towers being built. And I think the most interesting sort of statistic out of this is we're able to take $3 million here and impact 28% of county households. So what a way to leverage that money. That's no small number there. 28% is over a quarter of the households in the county. So Ryan, our first question for you here, any updates on current construction?
Yes, so we've actually completed the initial phase of the project, and that was to update existing infrastructure that we had constructed. So as I said, we've been at this for 10 years. So we have assets, vertical assets, towers, silos, rooftops, things like that throughout the county. So we leveraged that. That's part of how we were so efficient with the $3 million. I mean, if you were going to come in and do this greenfield, that $3 million would not carry you very far. Because a tower can cost $250,000 to construct. Well, we had some assets that we'd strategically placed based on demand and need. And we took and put the latest and greatest equipment, updated the connectivity to those towers, but also updated the access point equipment and things that make the whole system function. I won't get into the nerdy tech details on that, but where we're at right now is we've completed phase 1 of updating those first 6 towers. We are in the process of getting ready to construct the 2 new towers. Those will be located. One is in Old Town Valley region, Anderson Hill. The other one's on Tabor Ridge, the Tabor Ridge region, but it can see all the way into like Zorville and things like that. So it allows the 39 corridor to be connected. It lacks cell coverage from most of the carriers. It lacks broadband coverage from any wireline carrier. So we're in the environmental studies phase of that. We're just about the tail end of it, and we should be good to go. So that's where we're at today.
Cool. So, and you kind of spoke about this already, but I was asked at a meeting with citizens interested in this project. They wanted to know what areas of the county are most impacted by the project. So I guess another way would be to say this: where were the most underserved or unserved areas of the county that we kind of really tried to focus on?
Yeah. So I'm not going to give specific direction, I guess, but what I like as far as north, east, west, or south.
Hmm.
If you look at Tuscarawas County, and say this was the county map, the center of it has the population center. So the wireline carriers had already gone there. So what we've done is we've laid out the outer rim of that center and just really picked those places. So there's areas such as the northern part of the county near like Beach City. There's areas near Mineral City. That's in the north on the other side of the county. There's areas down outside of Yerkesville and Denison, the 250-800 corridor, and then all the way down into Jeanette and Hutton, just outside of Jeanette and Hutton. So this, South Central. Those areas have been our biggest impact outside of New Comerstown towards Stone Creek. So you've kind of, if you're familiar with the county's geography, we've circled kind of the center of the county. The biggest impact that I would say that we've been able to make is we've gone into areas like outside of the 800-250 corridor where there's no connectivity or very little, and we've been able to go in and completely change those. So of the homes, the 28% of the county that we've impacted, the largest percentage is probably in that South Central, just because that's the area that lacked the most connectivity. I mean, they had none in a lot of that area.
Great, great. So, as a part of the Broadband Ohio Community Accelerator program, the one thing that we kept hearing over and over again is that fiber to the home is the ultimate long term solution, the best solution. We didn't go that route with this project, so you're the expert here in this field. You want to explain to the viewers what are the major differences here between fiber to the home and what SmartWave provides in fixed wireless internet?
Yeah, so I'm gonna talk from a few different standpoints. So speed to deployment, economics, and the capabilities. So the speed to deployment for fiber is pretty slow. That's one advantage that fixed wireless really has that stands out exponentially. So with fiber, we utilize fiber inside of our network to connect our tower sites. Those go back to our data center. So I'm not here to say that fiber is the worst technology ever. I'm not here to say fiber is terrible, but I will tell you that just to deploy a single fiber circuit sometimes takes a year of permitting just to get the permits, and then you've got to go build it. So its speed of deployment is pretty slow. With fixed wireless, we're able to go in and leveraging existing assets, for instance, within 14 days of getting the green light from Tuscarawas County EDC, we had customers connected because we are able to go and deploy the fixed wireless. We have either licensed by rule or unlicensed wireless that the FCC has allocated frequencies for that we can just go and deploy without permitting, without waiting. We can just go put the stuff in. As far as economics come in, Chris and I, if you recall, we sat through a announcement from a company out of Columbus, Reed Consulting, that had Omega had put together just what it would take for fiber deployment to every door that was disconnected in Tuscarawas County. It was like $84 million. And it just comes down to fiber optics are expensive. You're putting the internet in ditches and on poles, foot by foot, inch by inch. And so that takes labor, materials to go and put it out there. And they may not even get connected. I mean, there's countless times we'll go connect a community and you're never going to get 100% because there are people that just do not want the internet. They're far and few between, and it becomes less and less every day. But you've got to go lay that fiber everywhere. With wireless, we're able to go and strategically place our assets, stick the access point up there, and if somebody wants connected, we go out, we'd install a device on their home. We have it professionally installed by one of our staff members. They point that modem in a specific way. It connects back, and they're connected wirelessly to our tower and then via fiber optics back to our data center. So we're able to go and deploy, much cheaper. We can go and stick an access point up there that might be $20,000 or $30,000 or $15,000, but that access point may serve 50 route miles, whereas a route mile of fiber can cost $100,000 before you even know it, because you may have pull make ready costs and things like that. And then from a technological perspective, one other way that it differs is that the fiber optics require an unbroken strand of glass, because fiber optic is glass, all the way back to each location. Whereas with our wireless, we have antennas, just like your FM radio or your satellite dish or your XM radio or whatever it may be. We go and we put those devices up. We broadcast those frequencies, and we can expand the system by simply installing a modem. I don't have to build to you, so I can go and do that. And the technology is getting faster and faster. We just deployed a project at Atwood Lake where we have multi-gigabit wireless connectivity across the facility, and we didn't have to use fiber optic cables. We didn't have to go disturb the ground to do so. And every day there's new technological advances that are making it to where fiber and wireless are getting more and more similar in capabilities. So those are the main differences.
Interesting. I know one of the things that we talked a lot about was topography. Tuscarawas County is not exactly a flat county.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the further south you go, the worse that gets, right? I mean, it just, you start getting into the Appalachian Mountains, and you just wonder sometimes how could they really down there in West Virginia, for example, in some of the really deep parts of the mountains, how could they actually deploy fiber to the home? It just seems to me, I'm no expert, but it seems to me that the logical solution for areas like that is fixed wireless, right? It just makes sense.
I'll touch on that for a second, because we've talked about this a lot, because I will say that we as a company, we know that there are some areas that fiber optics make sense, and we're going to get into fiber to the home in some of these rural communities. But when you look at areas, that just are like Stillwater, for instance, in the southern part of the county, southeastern part of the county, there's some areas that there's 4 houses on a mile of road. And if you're going to go put fiber up there and it costs you, let's say $100,000 by the time you get everything all done, that's $25,000 a home and $50 internet. When will you make that money back? I don't see that. So that, from a financial perspective, that's tough. But also, like we talked about, you've got farms that are out there that need that sort of connectivity. Everything's getting more and more connected. With wireless, we can go and strategically place our assets, and we can serve the outbuildings that are there without having to build more. We can go and serve, the home, farmer's home, the barn, where he's storing the tractor so it can download updates at night. I mean, we're already doing these things. And with the fixed wireless, it's simply going and adding a single modem. It's not building 6,000 more feet of fiber that you didn't plan on building. And when you get to areas like West Virginia, that's a really good point. I've got a lot of friends in southern West Virginia, and there's spots where it's like 3 miles of road for 2 homes. I just don't see how that's ever gonna. I mean, we have a lot of roads here that it's 4 homes a mile.
That's what there's always been discussion on the need for both. There are times, as Ryan had mentioned, that it's economical to do the wired, but there's also times that it's not equitable. So companies have to have a return on investment, and if they can't, that's why it's not been done in a lot of the rural areas, because there's not a return on the investment to be able to get enough money back to warrant spending the money to put it out there. So we've always used that argument too. There's room for both, and there's need for both. But I appreciate the work that SmartWay does, and I appreciate the work that some of our other providers do that come into the area to, again, try to cover our area. But we've got a long way to go. We still have a long way to go to be able to get everybody connected. But we're on our way. We're making strides. But and of course, everybody wants it yesterday. But and I can understand that. I really get that, because it's important for all the applications that we simply talked about. But one thing I wanted to add too is, because this is for your listeners, for those that you need to be involved. If people aren't hearing where the issues are and what the problem is, you can't sit back and complain if you don't tell anyone. You have to be involved with your local, your state, and your federal people. And believe me, they hear from all of us. but we need the listeners that may be watching this podcast to make sure that they're reaching out, that they watch some web, well, if they can, or they go to the library, wherever, if they don't have access, but they learn about where there's a lack of accessibility, and they voice those concerns to their local, state, and federal people, because they've got to hear that there's a need. Because when we go to advocate for dollars to come back to the county, we have to have some background reason why we're asking for it. You just can't think that it's going to fall into your lap. You have to explain to the people that are the decision makers on what the need is and how important it is. So I would encourage people to be involved in, whether it's webinars, whether it's going to your leadership, or if it's being part of a panel, or to be involved. You have to have a seat at the table, because your voice is not going to get heard if you don't express the concerns.
It's a great point, Commissioner, and there is a way that citizens can get involved. We'll go over that here in a moment. Ryan, speaking as someone trying to think as Joe citizen out there, I know one of the things that we often are frustrated about is the internet going down, right? And when it goes down, how long it takes to get put back online. I mean, we all have children, and I'll tell you, when there's no internet, this generation of kids, they don't know how to function without the internet in their house. So sometimes, if a fiber optic breaks, it could take 4 or 5 days without internet, and that creates chaos for a lot of families. So question for you, Ryan, how does SmartWay handle towers going down due to storms?
It's a constant question we get around weather and how it impacts service, because I think a large percentage of the population has at some point in their life had like Dish Network or DirecTV, and the clouds would roll in, the rain clouds would start, and then your TV would cut out. It's usually during like a football game or something that's live that you don't want to miss. The good news is overwhelming majority of the weather does not impact our system, but no system is flawless, no system is perfect. So we practice drills. We have emergency response. One of the things that we've done is we've bought what's called a COW. It's a cell on wheels. It's a 100+ foot tower that is towable by a pickup truck, and then you can stand it up and in a moment's notice, and within an hour and a half have service restored to an area. And we got to unfortunately practice this, but put it in real production last year. We always have site evaluations at our tower sites to make sure the tree growth and just any risk is taken care of. And a healthy tree that had passed our inspection in Jeanette and Hutton had come down and compromised the structure at the tower site. And within 23 hours from the time the tower fell to the time that we were fully restored, it was 23 hours with that cell on wheels. And then 4 days later, we had built a new structure and migrated off the cell on wheels back to it. And we use the cell on wheels for more than just disaster prep. We also use it for like event Wi-Fi and things like that. So we had it at the fairgrounds last year, and we do various events with that cell on wheels. But one of the things, you touched on the fiber optic, we're not immune to that. Fiber optic breaks. Our network is powered by fiber. That's how we get our data back to Columbus. We've had some fiber optic breaks that have taken 2-3 days to recover. We have redundancies built in to handle those. Overwhelming majority of our equipment and infrastructure, we have built enough margin into the 99.9% of the storm weather that we get does not impact. You can't avoid the direct lightning strike. You can ground everything to the hilt, but sometimes the hand of Zeus is strong and you can't control it. But one of the things that we like to point out too, though, is that fiber breaks and storm recovery, those things are expensive. And so as one of the concerns that we have with a fiber first mentality that we do see the state sometimes taking, some counties taking, is that as they go and they deploy that, if a fiber optic cable breaks and it's affecting a route with 6 homes on it, it may take them 3 years of their revenue. They may have had a grant pay for that construction, but to maintain that fiber and to pay the $15,000 or $20,000 that they've got in labor and materials to go out there and repair that, you start to wonder what is going to happen long term from a maintenance and restoration perspective on these rural communities. And so we're watching that kind of play out. I'm sure the other carriers have thought through this and have some plans in place, but it'd be really interesting as time goes on. A drunk hits a pole and takes out a fiber network at 1 a.m. How long will that go? And as Chris has said, it's essential. This is not a luxury. There are people that work from home. Post-COVID world, work from home is super common. How is that going to play out? That's what we're really, and that's why we've built the processes that we have in place and the procedures to restore the network whenever storms come through and damage things, because Mother Nature is brutal and unrelenting and unforgiving sometimes.
Well, I'll say, JC and Ryan, I've also been on that end of it too. Every one of us have experienced outages, whether it would be electricity, whether it would be a gas line, whatever it would be, a water line, or your internet service. They're all utilities, and they could be subject to break because of weather. And so it's not unusual, and we all get impatient because we're used to it being there. And I took note when you were talking about connecting some of the campgrounds. When we go camping anymore, it's not grandma and grandpa's old camper in the tent or in the tent. It is, they want their television, they want full hookups for your water and gas or sewage. So it's not unusual, but this is the direction we're going. This is what we're used to, and that's why I keep calling it a utility, because it really is. It should be a part of our everyday infrastructure that really needs to be emphasized to be completed.
Well, I'll just say,
Absolutely.
if someone doesn't believe that it's essential, all they need to do is spend one afternoon in my house when the internet goes down. One afternoon with the kids when there's no internet, that'll convince you that it is essential. So,
well, again, it goes back to, and I'm sorry to interrupt there.
No, you're great.
But it goes back to a couple of things that, again, Ryan touched on. It's business. You have entrepreneurs, you have people that are working from home that are relying on that, and they're working for companies. And it's economic development because, again, when it was mentioned and people are asking, why are you in the broadband business? Well, because it's economic development. Ask a hospital what it would be like if they didn't have a generator as a backup if their system went down. It's critical. So again, I think we're all singing the same song from the choir, but to the listeners, again, they realize how important it is when they don't have it. But those that haven't had it or don't have really good access to it, that's who we really need to focus on to make sure that we get reliable and affordable connectivity to everyone.
Absolutely.
All right, Ryan, and this is the ultimate question here everybody wants to know for SmartWay. What are the speeds that you can deliver?
Yeah, so we have several different speed tiers from a residential broadband perspective. We do 100 megabit as our baseline now. We do 100 meg down by 20 megs up. We also have our 200 by 25, and then we have 250 by 50. But we also have some commercial offerings. We can go all the way up to multi-gigabit if need be. That's something that would be engineered and designed and deployed. But as far as our current net across, those are the speeds we're offering today. We have plans in the future to obviously push those up. I mean, when we started 10 years ago, 15 megabit was our top plan. And so the technology is always evolving. It's always changing. But the latest and greatest equipment we're putting out there is up to gigabit capable. It requires, further work and development. When we make the decisions to deploy, you get to choose to cast a large net and do like 250 megabit, or you can cast a smaller net to a bigger concentration of people, so smaller group of folks, but higher speeds. And we think the biggest impact is to get those people connected now and then increase the performance of the system over time. But at 250 megabit, you can have 10 streams of Netflix going at the same time and still do Zoom calls and things like that. And it's all low latency. So there's satellite offerings out there that offer speeds, but our latency is, low double digits or high single digits across the system. And that latency, the ping times, that allows people to game, work from home, telehealth, all of those things that are essential today. And I'm not saying gaming is essential, but some people may say that. And but those things are possible across our system at high performance.
Just to echo what Commissioner Abbuhl was saying earlier about folks getting involved, to keep folks like Ryan honest here, we've created a internet survey, and I encourage you to go out and do the internet speed test. This is super easy. You just Google internet speed test from any device. Make sure you're hooked up to your Wi-Fi before you do it, and just test your speeds. Please remember what Ryan said about the tiers, though. You're not going to get internet speeds that you're not paying for, right? So remember what you're paying for when you do this. But we want to know. We want to know who your providers are, what they're delivering, and where they're not delivering. And we want to collect that information and give that feedback to the necessary folks. So please just check out tuskEDC.com/ConnecTusc. That'll take you to their survey. You should do an internet speed test before you take the survey, though. And the other thing to close here, check back on our website. So if you look under strategic projects, under business development, the ConnecTusc campaign is there. And I'm going to go in and update that as we make further progress. I also encourage you to subscribe to our newsletters and our press releases. And, listen to the Valley podcast any chance that you get. We're going to continue to try to update the community on these projects. And I've tried to make this as easy as possible. You can go to our website and you can get a downloadable audio copy if you don't want to watch. Say you want to ride your bike and listen. We have that available on Spotify, Apple, iTunes podcast. You can do the audio version of this, or you can just download it. You can also watch it on Facebook. You can watch it on YouTube. So this has been the Valley Podcast with myself, Commissioner Chris Abbuhl, and Ryan from Smartway. Thanks for watching.
The Valley is agriculture. The Valley is manufacturing. The Valley is technology. The Valley is community. Thanks for watching the Valley Podcast.